ourselves to relax into the present moment, relaxing into our physical form, our physical body, making any necessary adjustments to posture, and allowing ourselves to come fully into this moment, fully into presence, occupying this now moment fully and completely, letting go of any concerns that we can always pick up later, allowing this moment to be a state of pure presence and consciousness, giving ourselves the permission to be fully here, fully now. And as we arrive fully into the present, allowing ourselves to really feel the preciousness of our existence, acknowledging that I am presence, even within this unique physical focus, feeling the uniqueness of that presence, the existence, letting that be a reminder that if we exist, we are meant to exist, that we exist with reason and with purpose and with deep meaning. And the very fact that we exist means we have a place within the all that is, the totality, a very unique note that we came to play. And that all portions of all that is are indeed precious. So by the very fact that we exist, we are precious within the all that is. Allowing ourselves to embrace the preciousness of who we are. Good day to you. We welcome you to these realms of light, where the vast majorities of who you are also exist. We welcome you to these realms of light, from where your physical minds, your physical personalities, your entire physical lives also spring, emerging from those non-physical dimensions and creating this highly unique physical focus that you find yourself to be in this moment. Allow yourselves to recognize that each and every one of you has a conduit of energy of communication between this physical mind that you perceive yourself to be and the higher mind that you deep down know that you are. And through the many layers of consciousness and dimensionality, all the way to the all that is, you have that conduit, you are that conduit, and it is there and ever present. Thusly, the translation of your divine impulses, your joy, your creativity, your passion, is the receptivity of the communication that traverses along this conduit of energy. And you are here learning to translate that into physicality, into physical form, into time, space, reality, into 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time, because that is the way of designing your perceptive mechanisms to perceive the reality that already exists. For everything already exists, for there is only one moment within which existence is. And that is here, and that is now. However, you have created for yourself the illusion of time, space to create a sense of traveling through the present, as it were, a kind of optical illusion. And you are using this mechanism of time to give yourself that sense of hopping a moment to moment, instead of perceiving the entirety of the crystal of creation, the multidimensional crystal with its infinitude of facets, You are enabling yourself to give yourself the experience of traveling facet by facet, hopping from stone to stone across the river, and seeing this, experiencing this crystal facet by facet rather than by the entirety, by the totality, which other portions of you do experience. And indeed, enjoy the preciousness of this gift of life that you translate into physical terms. For you are indeed that portion of all that is experiencing itself moment to moment, piecemeal as it were, facet by facet. And you have an incredible amount of appreciation. You have an incredible amount of love and support. You are indeed very, very, very supported in this endeavor of experiencing yourself, passing moment by moment through the entirety, through the infinity of creation. You are infinitely supported by that creation because creation created you to have that very experience. So do not be in such a rush to extricate yourselves from this precious time-space reality. Believe us when we tell you that when your moment comes, you will not tarry, but a microsecond longer. You will simply then exit this physical time-space reality at the most appropriate time. So while you are here, do indeed expand your consciousness, but also appreciate the moment to moment, the, as you say in your world, the chop wood, carry water moments of physicality, where you are here to experience yourselves in that kind of a moment to moment awareness. Therefore, when you flow your consciousness into your present moment, you will recognize that there is much joy and much support from the all that is for the particular unique experience that you are manifesting yourselves to be. And now time is something that we will be unpacking further, because the nature of time is very much shifting. The understanding of time is shifting in your reality, whether in metaphysical areas or even in the quantum physics type discussions and awarenesses. The nature of time and the nature of reality and the introduction of the idea of parallel realities from all sides has been permeating into your culture, even into your entertainment, as well as into your sciences, into your metaphysical knowledge. It is becoming increasingly dominant as an idea in your culture, and it will continue to accelerate. Lastly, we will speak more of this nature of time, the structure of time. In our last transmission, we talked about the film strip analogy, which is not a new analogy, which has been referred to since the very creation of your early video projectors, that you move your consciousness frame by frame. This is not a new concept. Now introduced the grid pattern last time to give you the sense that you are not simply experiencing a movie reel, and that there is not one future and neither one past, but rather that there are many parallel versions of the film strip. And so this grid-like pattern will help you to see that, let us say, just for convenience sake, for this is truly unlimited, but let us say you have a grid pattern that is 10 squares wide. Now you would perhaps logically assume that perhaps there are 10 versions of you having an experience. However, as you move from square to square, you truly can create many more patterns than simply 10, because you can move diagonally and sideways in time as well. So even if you have a constraint of 10 squares, you can create many combinations because of the diagonal and sideways nature and movement of time, or in which you can perceive yourself to move through time. Now, all the square patterns represent a portion of all that is, let's say, that is your creative constraint upon your physical life. And thus you experience yourself moving square to square, but remember that you can not only move forward, you can move diagonally, you can move sideways. Now we began to introduce the concept of the cube in our last transmission. whereby rather than perceiving the square matrix, now we are expanding it a bit more so that you perceive the matrices as cubes, very much like a Rubik's Cube, a cube made of many smaller cubes. Imagine it this way. Now you are at the center of this cube, and thusly, that is what you perceive the present moment to be. Now you can move, as it were, forward, as you would on our previous square analogy. You would move forward into that cube, but then you can also move diagonally, as we've spoken with the squares. You can move sideways. Now you can also move up and down. Now each of these squares that you step through for each cube has within it many squares. Each square represents the ability to shift in time, and you are recognizing that the cube exists simultaneously. In simultaneous time, as it were, now you perceive yourself cube by cube within this larger cube matrix. And so you will then find yourself shifting through this crystal. Even while the crystal exists simultaneously, so too will you experience time moment by moment, piecemeal as it were, as you shift from one microcube to the next microcube within the larger cube. Now, when you shift dimensionality, you may perceive this entire cube simultaneously. Thusly, when you go through your life review, you will perceive your entire life as if one moment flashing before your eyes. And this has been reported by many individuals and is increasing in frequency. The idea of the near-death experience, whereby individuals perceive their lives before them in the flash of an eye. Of course, in a life review, this will be much more, shall we say, intricate and deep. However, those experiences of simultaneous time that people report in their near-death experiences are there to help shed a light upon the process of consciousness as it exists outside of the physical time-space reality constraints. So use that to your advantage and recognize that time structure appears in different ways in different dimensions. Now, that being said, do not be in a rush to extricate yourself from the time constraints, the creative constraints that you have placed upon yourselves, for you are here to experience it piecemeal, cube by cube, or square by square, or frame by frame. So appreciate that process of unfolding, because you are here to see yourself unfolding like a beautiful flower, petal by petal. This is the journey that you signed up for, and the highly valuable one within all that is for. And simultaneously, you cannot have that experience of the gradual expansion over time, frame by frame. You do not have that experience of moving through click, 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 frame by frame, experiencing your gradual opening and expansion. So appreciate that process. Do not be in such a rush. Now, as has been stated, the idea of translating your passion is the way to move through this time crystal in a way that is in greatest alignment with who you are. Thusly, when you do act on your passion, you translate that non-physical part of you, the information coming therefrom, which has the perspective of a greater portion of the cube, or even the entirety of the cube of your life. So those instructions that are being given to you are creating a most efficient pathway through this crystal that gives you an indication of how to live your life in the most aligned way with who you truly are. Now, because you are in a probability matrix, all probabilities do exist. Therefore, both the so-called positive integrative frequencies as well as the negative segregative frequencies exist. All probabilities exist because it would not be all that is if all probabilities were not contained within it. Thusly, you have the capacity to experience your lives because you are given infinite freedom and you are given unconditional love to experience your life from any perspective and any angle. You have the capacity to move through your life in a very disconnected way, in a very fragmented way, in a very negative way. By that we mean mechanically negative, segregated energy. So you have that freedom. You're given unconditional love. You're loved unconditionally. There is no condition placed upon your life. Therefore, you're given the freedom to experience your life in the most dire and negative of circumstances. However, this being the age of awakening, you can say the momentum is pulling you towards integrating your lives. The wind is at your back, as you might say, to move you, to tilt you in the positive direction, in the directionality of experiencing your life from a very integrated perspective and in an integrated, integral way. Thusly, you can use that. You can use the knowledge that is coming from your higher mind, which perceives the entirety of the cube, and use that as your guidance. So follow those breadcrumbs, follow the excitement, follow the passion, and act upon it and ground that energy into your physical life. Therefore, you will have the experience of shifting through the cubes to areas of yourself that are more in alignment and more in harmony with who you truly are. And therefore, you'll have the experience of expansion, the experience of becoming more and knowing more, the experience of moving closer and closer to the vibration of your higher mind, which will give you the ability to perceive not just the cube that you are within, but also some of the adjacent cubes. Now, in the stage of awakening, as you shift your frequency, as you ascend, you will be moving into portions of the cube whereby you begin to perceive the walls not as opaque, but rather as transparent and translucent. You will begin to see more and more of the structure of who you are, because that is the nature of perception in those portions of your cube. So as you step into these rooms of yourself, into these rooms of your mansion, you will notice those increasing perceptions, as you used to label in your culture extrasensory perceptions, the ability to perceive beyond the confines of the five senses that you know. You will open up your inner senses, because that is part and parcel of the vibration. That is the nature of those rooms into which you are stepping. The walls therein are more transparent, more translucent. Thusly, in your culture, you will begin to notice, as you already are noticing, the introduction of the idea of parallel selves and parallel realities in all their timelines, because the walls are indeed becoming more transparent and translucent. So allow this to happen. Now we will take a bit of a humorous sidetrack, because these symbols abound in your culture. Therefore, the clear cube has been used in some of your architecture. You will notice this a kind of reflective reality whereby you're seeing more glass-like structures appearing just to reflect a little bit more and more of this to yourselves. You'll also notice this in your entertainment as well, showing up in many different ways. You are becoming more transparent. Less and less can be hidden in the transparency of your being these days. So much is being flushed to the surface. Now, while this might appear as an increase in negativity, there's also an opportunity to transmute and to clear up, as it were, all the negativities that have accumulated for thousands of years upon your planet, colloquially speaking. So you have much opportunity for not only are you awakening to the realization of the translucence of your being, but you're also becoming aware of the places within your being that are opaque. And this can at times feel uncomfortable, feel a little bit painful, for you are visiting old opacities within yourself. And this is a process of divesting yourself of the many negativities that you have accumulated. So allow this to be part of the ascension, not an interruption in it. It is part and parcel of this journey to translucence. Now, remember, we talked about you experiencing yourself as moment to moment, like the beautiful flower, the lotus flower, awakening and opening petal by petal. Therefore, moment by moment, you will have that experience of becoming these translucent beings. And part of the becoming is the becoming aware of the places where you're still opaque, where you're still closed, tight as a bud. and experiencing the pain of that tightness of keeping yourselves closed and keeping yourselves opaque. So allow those revelations to be part of the journey. They are not an interruption, and we assure you this. And so you have several options when the negativity does come, when it hits the fan, as you say. You can buy into it fully, becoming unconscious within it again and falling into opaqueness, not seeing in front of you. You can label it in a negative way, label it as an impediment. Before, perhaps you say, I was feeling really great, and now I'm feeling like a little bit stuck, you say. So you can label it in a negative way as an impediment, or in a third way, you can label it as part of the process of becoming translucent, becoming aware of the pain of holding yourself tight in the bud so that you can let it go. Because how would you let it go if you are not first aware that you are constrained in the first place? So we recommend the third way of dealing with the constraints that arise into your awareness, because they are then letting you know they are there so you can let them go. So it is our intention that you use these analogies of the cubes and moving through the cubes within the cube of your entire life structure, to give you a sense of potentiality. For you have many, many pathways through this multidimensional crystal that you are, which already exists simultaneously. You have many options available to you. Thusly, if you find yourself in an opaque room, know that you are not only being propelled forward by the momentum of time into foregone conclusions, as we have mentioned in our last transmission. You indeed have many choices, many doorways, many windows, many parallel time streams to step into, even while your negative beliefs will propel you into a certain foregone conclusion. You have many options available to you. You can sidestep, you can move forward and sideways, diagonally. So you have many, many choices, even when it appears you have only one before you. So we will then allow this to resonate within you, and we will then open it up to questions and answers at this time. And remember to unmute your technology for the question and remute yourself afterwards.
Thank you, Illi. Would you talk more, please? Tell us what you can about the state of being of translucence.
Very good. We have made a transmission some time ago where we spoke about the idea of the cubicles. We used this analogy whereby you are working in your cubicle and all you see is your cubicle and your cubicle walls, and you feel like you're in this particular room with particular dimensions. However, we mentioned in that transmission the ability to realize that these walls are only so high and that you can, perhaps to continue the analogy, step upon your chair or step upon something, or give yourself the ability to peek over the walls and realize that, wait a minute, it is not just this one room that I am in, but I am in a room full of cubicles. And I can look above the walls and see that I'm part of a much larger structure than I previously felt that I was when I was in my tiny little room. And you're part of this larger organization, whereas before it might have been more opaque to you. Now, as you peek above the walls, you see, and you begin to feel yourself as part of a much larger structure. You're part of an organization indeed. Now, this organization metaphorically can lend itself to, at face value, give you the sense of being part of a much larger grouping of individuals working towards a common goal. It can relate to the other versions of you, the other parallel selves that are quote unquote working alongside you, having their own unique experience because they're in their own unique individual cubicles. You can perceive this as your other simultaneous parallel lives, working out their differences and their belief structures, working through their particular challenges and creative constraints within their own individual rooms or cubicles. So you can take this analogy out to whatever degree you wish. But that should give you this sense of going from opaqueness when you are within your own cubicle to peeking above the walls and beginning to see that you are part of a much larger structure. Now, when you apply this to your lives as we have applied it in this transmission, it is as if you're standing in the middle of your unique cube. Remember, we are talking about each moment being a microcube within this larger cube, which represents your entire life and all the probabilities therein. So you are at the center of this one cube within the larger cube of your life, with many cubes to the right and left, above and below, and side and diagonally from you. Now, when you're in your opaque state, you perceive only a very limited slice of physicality that is happening. You do not have necessarily the foresight. Now, someone that experiences clairvoyant abilities, let us say, they would have the ability to see many probabilities besides the one that they're standing in, besides the cube you're standing in. That individual might have foresight 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 cubes down the line, as it were. And they might give you an accurate representation, a prediction, shall we say, because they can see through the walls, they can see the larger part of the structure, and they get an inkling of your trajectory towards a particular portion of your cube. Now, of course, as is the paradox of predictions, is that the prediction itself, thusly making you aware of your trajectory, can cause you to make other choices. And therefore, as soon as you make even the slightest shift in trajectory, you will no longer be moving towards that cube that was predicted as your quote-unquote future. So that is one example of translucence, the ability to see forward, as it were, or the ability to see backwards. These are individuals commonly in the healing arts. Since we know you're involved in the healing arts, you have probably had this experience of perceiving probable future outcomes or probable past experiences as you work with various individuals, and creating links and bridges between experiences and between parallel selves, or even to other lifetimes as well, which would be like taking your life cube and realizing that your life cube is within an even larger cube, which contains other cubes, which are other lives. And each of those cubes contains the moment by moment cubes that we have talked about. For each life is lived indeed moment by moment. So that is one experience of translucence. Does this clear up the concept, or would you like more clarification?
This is very helpful. Thank you.
Very good. You will find that as you expand your consciousness and you become more aware that there are other probabilities and a variety of timelines to choose from, you will create within your consciousness and within your culture processes, indeed you have already begun to do so, whereby you can create links and bridges between various portions of yourself to create healing states and states of greater understanding of who you are, and to create a kind of shifting from one belief matrix into another, which is accompanied by a shift from one cube or one frame of perception to another. So you will become more subtle in your healing arts and your medical works to shift through your life experiences and to create bridges and links to quote-unquote past experiences to quote-unquote future experiences and parallel lives experiences, so that you can create a more harmonious associative pattern of frequency between the various parallel selves. Now, this is a whole other, as you say, can of worms to unpack in another transmission, but we are giving you a preview perhaps of topics to come.
Thank you, Illi.
Any other questions bubbling out there?
I do have a question, or I'm not sure it's a question, maybe just a comment. A couple nights ago, I woke up from a dream and I was in the dream looking out my window and I saw a figure in my backyard, a robed figure. And at that point, I woke up and remembered that only portion of the dream. And I said, I want to go right back to sleep and find out who that was and try to communicate. And I went right back to sleep, but I don't remember any communication. And, you know, in this talk about parallel selves, it could have some connection. I'm not sure, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Yes, you will notice that within your dreams, you have the capacity to translate, shall we say, many layers and overlay, as it were, many experiences into packaging it into one dream experience. Thusly, you might be connecting to multiple simultaneous parallel lives. You may also be overlaying a kind of psychological processing from your current life. You may be translating information received from higher dimensional planes. And sometimes your dreams will be containing flavors of all of these. And therefore, one dream symbol may contain within it many layers of meaning. Thus, the dream interpretation is its own kind of language, a multidimensional language. Even as, for example, within your ancient pictorial languages, one symbol might have many different meanings depending on the context of the word or the symbols it is surrounded by. So too will your dream symbols contain within themselves many layers of meanings. Thusly, to give one interpretation would be like collapsing all those meanings into one, but to realize it is itself, that symbol, a faceted manifestation. Thusly, it may, on the one hand, represent a crystallization of your guidance. It may, in another facet, represent the crystallization of your higher mind. In another facet, it might represent a connection to another lifetime. And to focus on one does not negate the others, but it is indeed a multidimensional symbol. Thusly, be aware that when you interpret the feeling nature of the symbols, realize there can be many layers to this symbology. And we have just given you 3 examples, and there can be many more that can be unpacked. So allow these symbols to communicate the truth to you. You can go into a meditative state and literally begin to very curiously ask, what is this? You can speak directly to the figure yourself in your imagination, in your meditation, in your in-between sleeping and waking states. You can also ask to incubate a dream about further clarification, because there are portions of you that are having more experiences than are being translated into physical terms. Thusly, as it were, there are gaps in your awareness as to interactions that you're having on other planes that are simply not translating down to your physical mind, or they are not, as we say, colloquially, you would say, not being recorded into your physical consciousness. So much work, much play can be done with this. So hopefully this clarifies or gives you some points to play with.
Yes, thank you.
And you all have the questions bubbling out there. Very good. Then we shall continue the topic of time and the movement through time. We would like to point out that as we began speaking on the nature of the translation of passion, you can, as an analogy, see yourself as standing on a kind of conveyor belt and imagine this illusion of time as being manifested as the movement on this conveyor belt. Now, because you are moving in this belt, you do not have to make an effort to move. You are being moved, as it were. Now, when you act on your passion and translate that into physical terms, it is going from breadcrumb to breadcrumb through the acting on the passion. It is creating a very natural kind of unfoldment in your life. And then you can allow yourself to be carried forward by that momentum of the natural expansion of who you are, because you are going frame by frame and breadcrumb by breadcrumb, unpacking each delicious present from your higher mind as you act on each passion, unraveling it, as it were, and implementing it in your life, unpacking gifts from your higher mind. So too will you be moved forward on this conveyor belt, and thus your life becomes not a struggle, not a painful journey through darkness, but rather a very joyful, carefree ride on this conveyor belt. Now, many analogies can be used. Riding on a train or riding on a canoe, letting the cords carry you, whatever metaphor you wish. But allow yourselves to relax into this journey, to let it carry you, to perceive the wind is at your back and gently pulling you, pushing you forward, moving you forward. Let the currents take you. You do not need to struggle as much as you have been brought up to believe that you must. So let time carry you forward. Let yourself flow with the current and continue to act on your passion. Use the Sasani formula as has been given. Thusly, when you act on your passion, you do it to the best of your ability. You have no insistence on the particular outcome because you trust the nature of your being and you trust where this conveyor belt is taking you. You need not struggle. You need not overburden yourself with heavy planning. Unless you are, of course, excited to plan, by all means do so. But remember, zero insistence means that whatever plans you make, you have to let them go. Simply use the planning process as a way to get excited, to manifest your excitement, but then revel in that excitement and let the plan go. Because other portions of you, this conveyor belt idea, other portions of you are literally crystallizing around you. Now, in truth, mechanically, what is happening is you're moving and you're traveling through yourself. But use that conveyor belt analogy to relax into the flow of your lives rather than feeling like you have to struggle your way through or push your way through or pull yourself in different directions. Just act on those breadcrumbs, those joyful packages of passion that you receive from the higher mind. So we will then allow a few moments to let these vibrations sink into your lives. Allow yourself to know that not only is verbal communication happening, but we are also transmitting on many levels and many frequencies. So you are imbued in this vibration. And even while all the physical words might land in a certain way, you are also receiving this transmission in other ways. And this sinking in at other levels. So allow yourselves to be bathed in this transmission's energy. Whether you are live or listening to a recording, everything is here and now. And so you are receiving this transmission in present moment, in present time. For that is all that exists. Relish your existence and relish your choice to be here in time, space, reality, to move through your lives cube by cube, to move through yourselves cube by cube within the larger cubes of your simultaneously existing life. Relish the process of unfolding, unveiling, revelation, petal by petal, opening yourselves up. So we will then at this timing allow this transmission to come to but a brief, apparent pause, for this transmission will always continue because you always, as we have said, have a conduit to your higher minds. And this communication is always happening. Thusly, then we will give whatever blessings are ours to give. And we will wish each and every one of you beautiful, harmonious, heartfelt and kind, and glorious, fond, good day. All right. That was more of an earful than I thought was going to come out.
I like the conveyor belt idea. That was really, I like the conveyor belt idea. It was real, you could just kind of glide and feel that smooth path through life, because we do get, and we got to walk on the road on our own volition. There's a lot of pebbles and rocks and things that we can stumble on, or we have to be aware of what to walk around. But the conveyor belt, you just kind of get on it and glide. That was kind of cool. I liked it.
Yeah, that one came to me this morning, actually. That one kind of popped into my head, and then it's just like, it's interesting that it closed that way, right? Because I thought that was going to be like the beginning, but it was the ending. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So good. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Did you have something, Vanessa?
No, you're welcome.
Oh, okay.
I got really affected by it. I'm kind of spaced out right now.
Yes, it's very dreamy.
I'm on the conveyor belt.
There you go.
See you later.
Right.
I felt that way when the first concept of the cubicles came, and saw myself bouncing up and getting lighter and lighter and being able to see over all my cubicles. It was really it kind of startled me for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that it keeps expanding. There's something about cubes, Although I get a feeling we're gonna go beyond the cube into other structures, tetrahedral structures and whatnot. But yeah, I think for now the cube just kind of makes sense, because we're going, we're talking about frames in a film strip. We're talking about, the grid pattern. Then it goes to cube. You know what I mean? So it just kind of grows on itself.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the images that are formed. I find it's almost, it's kind of like you get us into a trance state, or we put ourselves in a trance state, and can easily see the images as you're speaking. When you talked about crystals, I saw this huge round circle of crystal shapes and all different kinds of forms reflecting the light in different ways. And it's just kind of nice how it kind of flows like that.
Yeah, I totally see that too. It's just like, I'm glad you guys have seen the images, because I get that sense too of the crystal and how everything interlinks, and I'm just like, oh man, I wish I was like a graphic artist and could create that somehow. But I think our minds are creating it as it is being delivered. Yeah.
I know what you mean about that, the art idea, because when you said the wind at your back, well, what I saw was that same robed figure that was in my dream. When you said the wind at my back, I saw a whole bunch of them, like maybe 6 of them standing away from me, so I couldn't see their faces, and they have like hoods on, but wind blowing them, out in different directions. And I thought, oh man, I wish I could figure out how to put that into a canvas or something, but
right,
it's gonna be a while.
I know. One of these days we'll have these nano glass cubes, and we could just project our mind image into that. That'd be nice, right? Because sometimes you just get these intricate images and you're like, I wish I could just translate this immediately into some kind of graphical art. Yeah, but that's the joy of artistry, right? Is the manifestation process, and again, unfolding it moment by moment, right?
Yeah, and I was also thinking, you were talking about time, and it kind of occurred to me, you know, we're watching each other on the you know, on the screen, which is two-dimensional, and
Right.
that in future we can watch each other with you know, with a three-dimensional type of form that you know, like from a you know, those printers that now can print images, they print in
Mhm.
three-dimensional.
Right.
I forget what they're called, but you
3D
know, that
printers.
oh yeah, that could be like a future way of projecting ourselves, and then maybe we can get into places, you know, or more than one place, or we could put the consciousness into, I don't know, it was just kind of, you get off on a, it makes you think, it's kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah, and you know, that's what a lot of the science fiction does, is like it kind of is a precursor to technologies that come out later. But also it's almost like the technology becomes a permission slip for what we can do naturally, psychically anyway, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like priming us or creating the bridge to help us open up those inner senses that we can actually project portions of our, you know, and people do this all the time, you know, like mothers and children, for example, if the child's in trouble, they might get an image of the child or call for help or whatever. You know what I mean? So it happens, but we're usually, you know, we're still in the opaque rooms, or we don't see that as much as we will as we continue to ascend. But yeah, I really do see 3D technology like glass cubes, you know, instead of screens. Like I do see that coming. Yeah. Very good. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. It's lovely. It's like we had appropriately, you know, a 4 for the theme. So yeah, I'll see you guys.
We have a cube.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I meant.
4D.
Yes, exactly. 5D with me, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
All
So
right.
I'll see you next time.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great to
Yes.
see you.
Bye.
See you Sunday, Chris.
Yes, absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.